Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendit's Weather Channel. Today we're going to be looking through the 10-day prospects up to around day 14. We'll extend out beyond that with the ECM ensembles, which run out up to the start of February. We'll be running through the main models, the UK Met, the GFS, the GM, the ECM and the Icon, just to see what the trends are for the next couple of weeks. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, then make sure to drop us a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Now, as you've seen from the title of this video, which hopefully if I've remembered, I've got it right, then there is the potential for a quite severe storm in the next couple of days. But obviously we're going to run through that as we go along through this video and see what the trends are. Most likely to affect the West is what I will say first. So we're going to start then with the UK Met Office, which is starting today on Saturday, and at the moment from the outset we've got high pressure centre just to our west, low pressure high pressures to our east, low pressures to our west, and the wind is in from a mild southwesterly. The mildest winds are affecting Scotland. However, central and southern Britain has been quite cold recently. Also parts of northern England have been cold. However, the air mass is quite mild aloft, but there's a kind of an inversion going on, and the length of the high pressures keeping that trend going. So the weekend looks mainly dry. However, as we had Monday into Tuesday and Wednesday, there's a weak low pressure system moving in, but then again a chillier air mass wraps in, but again not particularly cold. It's kind of average before in comes this named storm. This storm here, which you'll just see on the map, just moving in onto our shores on Friday, and as you can see there it's moving in, and that's a big storm. On the 25th of Jan there with the UK Met, with a deep area of low pressure affecting many parts of the Republic and Northern Ireland and also Western Scotland, but most areas are quite windy with some very tightly packed isobars. You'd expect some very strong gusts with that. The centre of the low has the isobar 948 millibars, which is very tight and probably will produce 70 to 80 mile an hour winds at least, probably higher more locally. But it's a very big storm, and it does begin to move northwards, thankfully, and that's what a lot of these runs are showing. But there is still the possibility of this low moving straight through the centre of the country. This low behind it as well has also been on sort of a track to go straight through the centre of the country, like a dartboard low. But we'll have a look. So that's the UK Met, so it's unsettled, mild, and wet and windy. There is a potential for cooler air masses to sink back behind these low pressures, but it's unlikely at the moment, but it's something to watch out for. The Icon next then is very similar. How this weakening area of high pressure doesn't make it towards Scandinavia as it was initially thought, not strong enough. This low pressure kind of topples it and brings more wet windy weather off from the Atlantic by the weekend. This is highlighting the potential of this storm. As you can see with the Icon, it has the low much further over the centre of the country. This would produce some very strong winds for Ireland, Northern England, into parts of southern Scotland, and particularly the southwest and south Wales there. If we have a look at the wind gusts, you can see very strong wind gusts, 100 kilometres an hour for southwest Wales there. Obviously, the locations can't be taken to literally because it's so far out, you know. In this sort of thing, it's so far out that small variations can cause a big difference on a local scale and global scale. Because the UK is such a small island, small variations in pressure patterns along the Atlantic can move this low by 50 to 100 miles very easily, maybe more. This low, though, is slightly further southwards, so kind of clears again to our northeast, which is kind of the pattern projected. But again, another low's waiting in the wings to encroach from off the Atlantic. That looks very stormy. Looks very stormy and unsettled with the Icon as well. The GFS next then, the American model, is very similar with high pressure kind of toppling away by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But does look mainly cold for the next through Monday up to Thursday with some frost and fog possible. And then low pressure's rattling from off the Atlantic. There's a very deep area of low pressure. Very stormy, extremely deep area of low pressure. That would be damaging with a centre of the low of 932 millibars. That would be one of the strongest recorded storms in history. The isobars are very, very, very tightly packed. Let's hope this one does not come off, because we do not want a storm like this, the Northern Ireland will get absolutely battered by this, as well as northwest Scotland, north of the Republic of Ireland. You can see with the wind gusts with this 150 kilometres an hour wind gust, that's like 110 miles an hour. We do not want a storm like that whatsoever. That would be very damaging and disruptive. But there you go. That's just highlighting the possibilities. Hopefully that doesn't come up. I hope it's an extreme run. Again, clears out to our northwest. Then it's kind of transient, but it still winds in from a very mild southwesterly direction. The next low rattles in, bringing more wet and windy weather and stormy weather to the north. Winds are in from the southwest all the time, so it's very mild for the time of year. And it just keeps it mild for the whole run. Eventually, by the very end, high pressures building to our south, moving these low pressures further northwards towards Greenland and Iceland by the very end, so as we're going into February, and bringing in the winds from a very mild southwesterly wind. Very mild, stormy, wet and windy. The GEM, by comparison, is slightly more northwards of this area of low pressure, which would bring some rain to the south and the east. Thursday, the 23rd of Jan. There. Again, there's that low. Much further westwards, though, with the GEM. So doesn't bring any too damaging winds to the west and northwest, and kind of moves that low further northwards and keeps it with the tropospheric polar vortex. And shift it further northwards. More lows do develop in the flow, but they're not as severe, and it keeps it more westerly than southwesterly as well. So slightly cooler, not cold of course, but slightly cooler and less unsettled with the GM. That's when you're hoping to happen, so you don't get really bad severe storms. And then finally, the ECM, to wrap it all up, has just come out, so it's very unsettled with that low pressure. A little bit further westwards again, but affecting particularly the northwest and the northwest of Scotland, southern Scotland, and the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Very deep area of low pressure again, with 936 millibars, very close to the GFS. Luckily, the centre of the low is a little bit out in the Atlantic, but subtle changes and subtle shifts would not take much to move that closer. The wind gusts with this one are still very severe, with 140 kilometres an hour just off the coast of Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. So very severe impacts with that one if it did came off, especially along the coast. Again, it goes more very, very mild with winds in from the southwest and south, with heights building towards our east, just bringing up very mild southerly winds, and this pattern kind of continues for the whole run. Westerlies and southwesterlies, keeping it very dry for the south, most likely. Most wet and unsettled conditions in the north, but again, the emphasis is on the conditions to be mild. And again, between low pressure, this could be slightly cooler, but doesn't look likely here because the wind remains from the southwest between these lows. So yeah, it doesn't look promising at all with those. Now if I have a look at the ECM scenarios, these have just come out. These are the 10-day trends, or the 10-day anomalies with the ECM ensembles for the 12Z suite, which run out to the 28th of January. So 22 members have low pressure to our west, towards Greenland and in the Atlantic, and high pressure to our east. Winds are coming up from a very mild southwesterly or southerly. Mild, most unsettled in the west and the northwest. 15 again with low pressure kind of deepening over the top of the country, so unsettled, mild and stormy. And then 14 have low pressure out to our west, high pressure much stronger to our east, with winds in from more of a southerly or southeasterly direction. That's the mildest option, but all options look mild and very unsettled, particularly in the west and the northwest. 14, and this is for the 2nd of February, in 360 hours, so like 14 days away. 14 members of the ECM ensembles have high pressure building further north, actually, a bit more like a Scandinavian high. Low pressure to our west, and winds are coming in more from off the continent there, but again, that depends on the position of the high. Could be right off the top of the country, could be slightly further north, and that could indicate the conditions we see at the surface. That could be a bit iffy, that one. Most likely it could be a bit cold though, especially in the east. 13 members have low pressure again towards Greenland and Iceland, and high pressure towards the east, towards France and Western Europe, and winds are in from the southwest. 13 have low pressure to the north and high pressure to the south, winds there from the west, and 11 have a bit of a battleground, low pressure towards Greenland and Iceland, and extending towards Western Europe into France, with high pressure in the South Atlantic. I'm not really sure how you'd call that, really, off the coast of France. And high pressure again centered towards the far north of Scandinavia. You'd expect the winds to remain from the west there with that one. So what do I expect to happen? Well, we can bring up the diagrams for the GFS ensembles. We'll have a look at Barnsley, my hometown, to see what that shows. So again, very mild for the next few days, but cold at the surface. Like right now, it's 0.5 degrees, pretty cold overnight as well, harsh overnight frost. Then again, it was kind of average between the 20th and the 24th with kind of mixed air masses. Then there is like oscillation between milder and cooler sectors, but these cooler sectors could be slightly colder, but it's something to work out, and if it does come up that it might be a little bit colder in these little periods, then we'll go through it. But at the moment, it doesn't look like anything too severe. Mild and cooler air masses mixing in, and then kind of average to above average in the longer term. If we have a look at the precipitation charts, you can see from this the risk of precipitation, and from around the 23rd the risk heavily increases, suggesting the risks of unsettled and stormy conditions moving in, as I indicated earlier in the video. Well, I hope you did all enjoy that, and I hope it was informative. If you did find it informative, as always, like and subscribe to my channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so I greatly appreciate if you could drop us a sub. Let us know if you've got any feedback in the comments of this video. And I'll see you all in the next video or live stream. Not sure what it is yet, but we'll work it out. Cheers everyone for your continued support, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.